Happy New Moon in Libra, everyone, and solar eclipse, which intensifies and amplifies everything that's going on. I've been taking things very slow within this last 2 days in the cycle. I did a meditation, and I will share with you a little bit some of the messages I was getting from spirit, both in my meditation connecting to the spirit realm, and also through the messages that then were came through tarot and some oracle cards. One of the things that I am sort of like feeling in my body is this need of, it's almost this sense of speeding up so much and then slowing down and then speeding up again and slowing down. Is like this sort of wavering that happens so that you can find this like center and balance. I also started my moon cycle, which amplifies everything else that is that I'm feeling and sensing from the ether. And also, I mean, acknowledging the fact that there are a lot of uncertainties and a lot of pain and a lot of things collectively that we're moving through, and also at a personal level. So when I was like tuning in with spirit and like gathering the energy and looking at what images I received, as you know, I work with, I'm a visual artist, so I work with a lot of images to translate the information that I get. So one of the things I saw was this knot, like either of thread or yarn, and so it's all like tangled up and is encircled like in this in a circle, and then I keep seeing this thing of like in this energy of untangling everything, you know, like kind of like when you're going to use yarn or before weaving, you sort of have to untangle it, the yarn sometimes, or something with thread, or if you're working on something. And the way that spirit presented this to me is like, it's almost like in the sense of part of our work and of our ancestral work, healing work, growth and evolution that we do. We gotta untangle a lot of things that are part of our story, personal story, generational story, like at the, you know, within our families, our communities, at the collective level. But there was something very specific that I felt like that there was this sense of, at some point, we keep focusing so much on the untangling of it that we get stuck there. Or we're constantly pulling at the threads, wanting to undo the knots from before, which I understand why. I mean, like I'm one of those people that likes to understand and looks at the past, and so that I can learn the lessons, so that I don't repeat the same mistakes. But I do also notice how in this process of constantly looking back and constantly looking at what it was and the lessons that I'm learning and the lessons that I'm supposed to take, is that then there comes this fear of moving on from like into the new paths, or like if we go with this with the energy of this ball of yarn that is all tangled up, that that sometimes we're so busy just untangling that we don't create anything new. We don't start weaving new things, weaving new patterns. And that's the call that I feel like from spirit, that is asking us to be honest with ourselves in terms of how much are we constantly doing the untangling, and this sense of like preparation, and we're not moving forward, because it's almost like we're being held. Oh, the word came about, like being held captive by the work, as opposed to letting the untangling of it give us the material that we need, so that we can start creating new stories, so that we can start weaving something new. So I will go in a little bit. I'll show you the tarot cards that I received and the oracle cards, which it really is one of those things that you can't plan and how they show up, because it actually expanded on the message that Spirit was giving me through this image of the tangle knot and also the holding back. One of the things I wanted to mention as well is that the gate, human design gate that was activated during this new moon in Libra, it's gate 32, which yes is activated through the zodiac sign of Libra, and carries this, you know, this element of justice, of balancing of energy. But this one is it's called endurance, and is this sense of kind of preparing to make sure that we commit the right energy to that we can commit the right energy into the right action, so that we can actually either correct or transform or continue to preserve the things that are serving the community. The thing is that because this is a gate that is in the spleen, is that it can have the fear of the future, kind of going back to those themes that I was talking about with the image the Spirit was giving me of, at some point is like you get tangled up with what you're trying to untangle, or assessing am I ready, am I not ready. That is almost like that there's this lack of trust that starts happening within ourselves, that then we don't know when to move forward, even though we have been doing a lot of the work. It's different when you haven't done any of the stage, any of the preparation that can allow you to move, to take those steps to move forward. But and then obviously you need to take care of those. But with the energy of this gate, is kind of letting us know, it's like, yes, you have to set that foundation and determine like the right timing of what it, and right preparation to know when it's time to move. But you do have to be able to take that action. And constantly being afraid of the failure of what might happen doesn't allow us to move to that next stage. Or in the case like with the yarn that was being woven, like we don't do anything. So it's almost like at some point the image that I got also from Spirit is that, you know, like when you get gum in your hair, like sometimes you might be able to salvage some areas, but some areas you do have to cut. So you do have to let go of certain things that maybe you don't understand, but they need to be released, because the more that you try to understand it, the more that you get caught up in the webbing of that, in the tangledness, in the chaos of it, without really being able to see how it's time, not just that it's time to move, but all the beauty that you can create from whatever you learn from it, or even in the unknown, and like honoring the mystery that sometimes you don't know what things happen, but you have a choice in how you weave that new story. So this is as much as I got in terms of like of these images. I'm going to turn into tarot, and then we'll explore some other messages. As mentioned earlier, I had already done a pull for this new moon, since I was doing a meditation yesterday in connection to Spirit, which you just heard, and then also in the with the energy of today after the new moon happened, after it went exact. One of the reasons I love doing that for me is as opposed to doing the whole pool in front of you. Well, one, you sort of need to trust that what I got is what I got here. I'm not adding anything, trying to make it fit into any message. I pretty much just trust that whatever Spirit is giving me is what is meant to come through, because these messages are as much for me as they are for the people that are willing to listen to the message and receive. But also it's because in the process of me processing a lot of these images, since I am a visual artist and I'm a clairvoyant, psychic, and I do mediumship as well, a lot of the messages that started being woven through come from a place of reflection, and once I've had that opportunity of letting some of this information marinate and come together. So let's go ahead and start with the tarot first. I will leave this one for later. So this is a timeline for what the new moon is inviting us into, and because it is a new lunar cycle, it's also something that that starts us in this whole like next 4 weeks or so, 28 days of this new cycle, as well as a period of 6 months, really, because of the eclipse that's happening, you know, from the time of the new moon in Libra to when we have a full moon in Libra, which will be sometime in during Aries season. Okay, but here it goes. So we have the Nine of Swords, King of Swords, Justice, Five of Cups, Four of Cups, Seven of Cups, the Magician, and the Tower. Make sure that everything is, that you can see everything. Everything is within the frame. Okay, so one of the things first is looking at the overall of this. There seems that there is this sense of unease, and there's pain, there's turmoil, there's sense of fear and anxiety. But in a way, I feel like connecting it to the messages that we received before through the images of the, you know, the tangled up knot, is that is where we have been. This is a lot of the stuff that is being around us, and a lot of the things that we have been doing, you know, in the last, energetically speaking, with the transits, with so many of with world events, with things that have been happening for us that personally, we have been going through a stage in which we've been doing a lot of reassessment and a lot of like clearing up the paths, and it almost feels like we're almost at the end of it. But it's like we're almost there, but we're not quite. And this sense, I feel that Spirit is letting us know that, yes, indeed, we're almost there, but there might be certain things that we don't have control over, but there are things that we do. And those are the things that we need to focus on. So, for example, here with the Nine of Swords, and it reads here, despair. If you remember when I was talking about the tangled up knot, and let's look at it in terms of like this corners that were gonna give us the framework of what we're looking at here, is that the despair that comes from like disappointment and from all like the grieving that we've been doing and looking at what has been lost, and like the level of shock that's happened, or with the foundations that have been moved from us. And that I think this is one of the important cards here. It says apathy, and I don't necessarily think it's apathy in terms of like we've done something wrong. Is that when we look at it all together, it's like if we're in the space of having looked at what has passed and having seen what we have lost, and doing the untangling of everything that has come before, ultimately we have had to pause and be able to step back and not receive anything new, because we needed to make sure that things were complete, and you sort of had a time to digest whatever's happened. And that is normal, like in the Four of Cups, to sort of reject a little bit of what's coming out, of anything new that might come through. However, if we think back to the whole thing about the knotting, like you're undoing the knots, is that at some point we get into this place of stagnancy where we don't move forward because we keep digesting and reassessing, almost to the point that we sort of keep creating the cycles in which creates more fear and that we're not really able to move forward. And the medicine really is understanding that, yes, it's fine to take that step back, to do all this, not to digest what has occurred, what has happened. And even like with the Five of Cups here, that to honor our grief, and especially for those of us that are do a lot of ancestral work in terms of healing our lineages, that it is important to understand what we've been healing and feeling, to release a lot of what has been trapped within our DNA, our family histories, because we want to heal what has come before. But also now is like understanding that it's not just about the grief, and it's not just about the pain, it's not just about the trauma and the shock, but it is meant to be used as sort of like a push towards creating new foundations. Because here with the tower, it's not just about it's not destruction to be able for the sake of destruction, it's destruction for the sake of creation. And that is actually one of the things that that really draws me to this concept of the divine feminine, the sacred mother, the dark mother, is that she destroys. And like Mother Earth, there's this sense of cycles in which there's destruction, but there's regeneration. Regeneration always comes. So like being willing to understand that nothing is wasted, like the vulture is here, and the Five of Cups is, yes, there's been loss, but there's also, this can nourish what comes next. And I really think the Spirit is asking us right now, like, to look at what comes next for us, because we have been in this space of either driving ourselves crazy with everything that we're and I really mean crazy in terms of like creating a lot of anxiety for us, creating a lot of sort of like re-triggering ourselves, and then also with everything else that's going on in the world, to be in this space of like, it's like this never ending suffering. But ultimately we are meant to move past that. The 9 is a number of completion. So when we get to the 10, we can that is the dead end that brings where there's nowhere else to go than to come back to the 1 again, in which is this new beginning. And now, so when we look at that, we look with the King of Swords and the Injustice. There's this two it's almost like this potent ace of swords, that looking at it in terms of like having that wider perspective, with the eagle like flying above of what's happened. And that part of our work with the detangling is also about like owning our truth, owning what the truth is, that can set us free and can set us into motion. Because the King of Swords is also can also be not always, but in this case too, is not asking us not only to look at the truth of who we are and the truth of who we want to become, but also it propels us into movement with the clarity of mind, with the clarity of heart. And so when we look at Justice, well, first of all, like the new moon in Libra, it's happening in Libra is sorry, let me backtrack. So the new moon is happening in Libra, and Libra is the ruler of justice, and this sense of balance, like of weighting our hearts with our minds and everything. Like we're like in this constant state of finding alignment, finding our balance, finding the truth that helps us not just ground into ourselves, but it can also help us serve the collective better. But one of the first steps with Justice is to acknowledge where we're at the moment. And right now, with during Libra season and with everything else going on, it is really asking us to take a pause in terms of assessing and acknowledging what has come through, so that then we can start looking at what can come next. But again, so it's all these things. We've been doing all this work. I keep getting this thing very clearly from Spirit. It's like, it's not that we haven't been doing it. No, we've been doing so much. But now it's important for a lot of us, especially that have been doing this work for a really long time, to start looking at the what's next, so that we don't keep going back to the same cycles over and over and over again. Because ultimately what really allows us to heal, or to have this sense of like wholeness, and and we keep evolving in there too. So it's not like a one and done. It's like we keep continuing to grow and gain experiences. Is like, it's really learning from the past, but then now also understanding that we have other options, and we can start creating different stories. So what are the truths? What are the stories that we're wanting to tell about ourselves, about our lives, and that honor us, that honor others? This is not about just us focusing so much just on the past and on all the suffering that has come through, through our generations, or that have happened to us personally. But it's also about like, how can we like move forward now with us, and with the clarity and the sense of purpose and all the work that we have done into new potentials. And which I think these are the other cards here that sort of bring us into this invitation. Like here's the Seven of Cups. This says seduction. What's in, and with the Venus fly traps, I think the piece with this is seduction, because sometimes again we can be seduced back when we have like all this many options, we don't know what to choose. So the important thing with this card is to understand that with the offerings, that come with this card, with all these options that come, we step back to assess, have a greater perspective. And then that allows us to really acknowledge what is good for us. What are the cups that we can actually receive? What are the cups that we can invest on? As opposed to us like thinking that we need to choose everything, or that we don't choose nothing, or that we get trapped in this sense of getting something that maybe wasn't for us. And with these options, also, getting the truth, having that perspective, looking at our balancing our energy, being in alignment with what is correct for us. Then comes the Magician, in terms of being like, let's go back to the image of the tangle knot that we had before. Since now we've release a lot of the threads, we've untangled that, we have some threads that are free now. Or even we think of it with the Tower, we go and cut, sometimes we have to cut that knot, but now we have the material that is being sort of liberated. So what are we going to start creating now? What are we going to start weaving together? So that I love the aspect of like the colors are very similar here, in which there's this big impact and all this energy is released. This is Mars energy after all, and Pluto. So there's this big explosion after everything settles. It releases this energy, and there are all these threads in which now we can start weaving new things. How can we start putting it together? How can we start creating new things that actually are set up in a much better foundation, that can honor our truth, honor our hearts, honor ourselves, honor others, and that honor like our bloodline, but then it also moves us forward in a way that we actually embrace our power, embrace our a sense of possibility. So now let me keep going with the oracle cards. So have the Fates, Dark Spirit Moon, and the Void. Cat's Claw with Purification. Jinxin with Magician, sorry. And here is the new moon in Aries. Time to take action. Something that was pretty mind-blowing to me when these cards came through is that, well, first of all, the most obvious one here is in terms of the Magician with Jinxin and the Magician. But also is that in exploring some of this, the meanings of these cards and the stories, and connecting it to what is the word is already here, is that remember what I was talking about, this sense of like owning what we can work on, and then acknowledging what we can work on, but then also releasing what is not us, ours to carry. So the Fates comes with this in understanding that life is a mystery, and sometimes, like with the stars here and the stars here, sometimes things are woven together that we have control over, and sometimes we don't. And the beauty of it, even though there's a lot of pain and confusion and grief and sorrow, is also understanding that there's also the other side of it, in that which we can acknowledge what happened, we can establish the reality, the truth of what was, but then also understand that we have agency in terms of what we're able to create and moving forward. So with the dark spirit moon, that dark spirit moon, the void, we just moved through a dark moon. We've started a new moon, is using that energy of the void, of the loss, of the darkness, of not really being able to see clearly, but knowing that a new beginning is coming, because we're able to integrate that darkness, that fertile soil that was created with the tower. So we are able to start creating new experiences, call in and set up new intentions that don't repeat the same story. So the thing with the fates is really understanding that there are and really believing that there are beautiful things that are meant for us, and that we're not meant to stay stuck always in the sense of loss and grief. And that it can be really easy, not for everyone, but it was for a lot of us, like that we've been doing a lot of ancestral healing and trauma work. It can be really easy to get caught up in the loss. But when there is a lot of power that has come through all of that work that we've done in terms of being able to weave new possibilities. Which here with the cat's claw purification, one of the amazing things is first this panther balancing, the sense of balance again, finding balance and being able to look in the dark, and the panther or puma or black panther not only sees through the night, but is in shamanic circles, it's considered a connector of to the invisible world. And with that, the cat's claw, the plant, will assist in purification of the blood. So it's about that purification, not just in terms of our immune system, but in terms of our DNA, whatever we're talking about. And when we start creating a new story for us, we start healing the lineages that came before. Something that was really powerful for me and my psychic mediumship work is that I had one of my maternal grandfather came through. This was a while ago, and he said, one of the first things he told me is, he's like, you need to stop trying to heal the lineage. You heal the lineage by living for you, by creating new stories for you. And sometimes it's really hard to let go of that. We can do our part, but we're not meant to carry it all. So you purify. That's the sense of the tower too, because they're both ruled by Mars and Pluto. It's this aspect of whatever was clear before, now we can start using that. Nothing's wasted. Everything can be recomposed into creating something new. And what really needs to be let go of, because it's no longer useful and it cannot be repurposed or used, we honor it and we lay it to rest. And the magician here is pretty self-explanatory, in terms of the connection, what I mentioned with the magician as well. But also in here being ruled by Uranus and Jupiter, there is this element of being this master creator with because of all the work that we've been doing. Yes, there's this element of right place and right time that comes through, but it's about opening our awareness to see what elements we have to work around, and letting understanding that we have that capacity to weave new creations, to set our intentions into calling beauty and luck and prosperity and abundance. And I mean it in this very, very expansive ways. That is, they're not just superficial, but that there is this abundance of heart, wealth, and prosperity, and safety and security for us that comes from choosing to create new stories for ourselves. And the last card that I got here is the you know, that it's time for action, which is pretty much the best way to summarize what Spirit was telling me from the very beginning with the image of the nodding. Is it's really time to move. It's let ourselves be gentle, you know, because it's be gentle with our hearts, because there's a lot of stuff that we haven't been able to control that can feel jarring, you know. And at the same time using that, balancing that, like finding this thing of like not going just to one side or the other, constantly being in this being pulled one side than the other, but like being cradled in this space of like we can start where we're at. We don't have to stay stuck in the past. We don't have to like figure everything that comes in the future. We've done the work. We're here. Now let's look at what's available. Let's start taking action, even if it is little by little. Nothing has to be so drastic to the point that we end up making ourselves like sort of step back and like trigger ourselves or however. But it's like let's start taking brave actions where we can. So with that, with that invitation, I let you go. Thank you for being with me, sitting with me. All of this feels like very raw, because as I mentioned before, like I'm moving through this with you all. But the main thing is like we're not alone. A lot of us are doing this work, but then it's also like we are about honoring that we are very supported and that we are being given the tools. We are. Trust that we're being given the tools, and trust that divine has like the most beautiful intentions for us, and that they're holding us, and our ancestors are holding us in the work that we're doing. But it's time to take the steps forward without having to go backwards all the time. We step back to assess, but then we move forward. It's always like that. Step back to assess, but then move forward little by little. Well, thank you again. Happy new moon blessings in Libra. May this new moon cycle like bless you and give you access to all the possibilities that you're calling. Let yourself be grounded. Let yourself receive, and really like be here sense through your body. See where all of this lands and breathe through it, and let me know what brave action are you taking. For me, even putting this this message out to you is part of my brave action. So look at all the details in the description in terms of the offerings I do have spiritual readings like ancestor and soul guidance. I also have products through my website, my visual art. All of those links you will find in the description. Thank you. I send you much love for this new cycle, and may you receive everything that is meant for you. Open to receive.